Alright, grade 9. I hope that you're doing well. In today's session, we will continue speaking about the kingdoms of West Africa. We have already spoken about two of the most important kingdoms that have arose in that area. Number one, Ghana, and number two, Mali. In today's session, we'll speak about the third kingdom that has arose on the Niger River, which is Songhai. So, to speak about Songhai, we need to mention that most of these civilizations, Ghana, Mali, and Songhai, they have arisen in that place, this area, along the Niger River. Okay, that's the Niger River. In that place, we're not speaking about today, we're speaking since 1200 years ago. Okay, they all started to arise in this place, Ghana first, and then Mali, and after that Songhai, which was the most or the largest kingdom in West Africa. Songhai started in the 1400s. As in the 1400s, disputes over successions started to weaken the kingdom of Mali and subject people broke away, and the empire shriveled by 1460s. The wealthy trading city of Gao had become the capital of the emerging West African kingdom of Songhai. So, to speak about the expansion of the empire, how did that empire started to expand? Abdurrahman, can you start, please?
Songhai developed on fertile ground at the bend of the Niger River in present-day Mali and Niger. Between 1464 and 1492, the soldier king Sonny Ali built the largest state that had ever existed in West Africa. Sonny Ali brought trade routes and wealthy cities like Timbuktu under his control. Unlike the rulers of Mali, he did not adopt Islam, but instead followed traditional religious beliefs.
So, number one, we have after Mali started to decline between 1464 and 1492, we have a man called Sonny Ali. Sonny Ali, he was a soldier king. This soldier king started to take control of all the areas around his own territories, and by that he started to expand both his territories and also the trade routes and the wealthy cities, like for example Timbuktu, which was the capital city of Ghana. So, under Sonny Ali's control, okay, the rulers of Mali, Sonny Ali, he did not adopt Islam as the rulers, for example, of Mali. This person which we have spoken about, Mansa Musa, he did not adopt Islam like Mansa Musa or his ancestors, but he started to follow the same religion of his early ancestors, which is being polytheistic, worshipping the spirits and the ancestors and all the beliefs about his own ancestors. So Sonny Ali, he did not adopt Islam, he was not Muslim. Instead, he followed the traditional religious beliefs, believing in the spirits of his ancestors and that he must honor them and all of that ideas about his own ancestors. Soon
after Sunni Ali's death in 1492, however, the Emperor Askia Muhammad set up a Muslim dynasty. He further expanded the territory of Songhai and improved its government.
So, after Sonny Ali has already died, that was in 1492, the Emperor Askia Muhammad. So, after Sonny Ali came Askia Muhammad. And Askia Muhammad, okay, he set up a Muslim dynasty. So first we have in Songhai came Sunni Ali, and after Sunni Ali came Askia Muhammad. Sunni Ali started to follow the traditional of his own ancestors, and Askia Muhammad, he started to set up a Muslim dynasty. And by setting up that Muslim dynasty, he further expanded the territories of Songhai and even improved the government. And by improving the government, he started to take more and more lands and territories under his control. To run the empire more even efficiently, he set up a bureaucracy with separate departments of farming, the military, and even treasury. Officials appointed by the emperor supervised each department. So remember that we have spoken about the bureaucracy, and we said that we have several types of government: monarchy, oligarchy, and bureaucracy. So Askia Muhammad, he started to make a bureaucracy government, and that government, which was bureaucracy, started to be separated into different segments and different departments. To speak about the separate departments and the separate segments in the government, he started to just take important in the segment or the department of farming, department of military, and treasury. Treasury concerning the money in the country, the income and the outcomes of the country. So he started to make three important segments in his government: farming to provide food for the people, military in order to take control of the security of his own land, and the treasury to take control of trade and income and outcome money in the government. By taking control of all of that, he even started to appoint some officials in order to just supervise all of these departments, so that no corruption shall begin at any one of these. And by having control over all of these departments, and that he makes sure no corruption will come, then he will last longer. So, like Mansa Musa himself, Askia Muhammad, he made pilgrimage to Mecca that led to stronger ties with the wider Muslim world. Scholars from the Muslim land flocked to Askia Muhammad's court at Ja'wa in towns and cities across Songhai. He built mosques and even opened schools for the study of the Holy Quran. So, simply, one question: why do you think Askia Muhammad wanted to make strong ties with other Muslim world? So this man, he was in this place. Okay, the kingdom of Songhai arose in that place. Nowadays, Mali and Niger. And on his pilgrimage, he went to Egypt, and from Egypt, he went to Mecca. And of course, to go all of this distance, he will come counter some of the Muslim civilizations and Muslim countries. And by coming to these countries, he will just make strong ties with these countries. Are those ties important?
Yes.
Why?
So he have allies.
Have what?
Allies.
Okay, so that he will have a life. Nice. What else? Come on, guys. What else can he have?
And he can trade with them.
Exactly, Abdurrahman. He can trade with other civilizations. We have said that all of the three most important kingdoms in West Africa, they were raised upon trade, salt, gold trade routes, and also trade with other civilizations. And by just making strong ties with these civilizations, he will be able to expand his trade even further, and of course, he will gain more money. And that's what we actually need. Invaders from the north. And as any other civilization, after you grow stronger and you go up, some people would like to get you down and take control of your own territories and land. So we have some invaders who came from the north. Abdullah al-Haydari, does your mic work today? Okay, invaders from the north.
Okay. Songhai continued to prosper after Askia Muhammad died in 1528, but disputes over succession led to frequent changes in leadership. In 1586, a dispute erupted that led to civil war. Soon after, the ruler of Morocco sent his armies to south to seize the West Africa gold mines. The invaders used gunpowder weapons to defeat the disunited forces of Songhai.
So,
Like
number one, no, sorry, just a second, Abdullah. So, Songhai, of course, started to expand more, to continue to prosper, to grow stronger, to flourish, to have more trade routes, even to have more money and more trade until it came to its peak. After it came to its peak, the most or the highest point in its civilization, actually, some people started to take interest in that country, especially because of the gold in that kingdom. So, Songhai itself started to prosper, and Askia Muhammad died in 1528. After he died, we have the ruler of Morocco. The ruler of Morocco, of course, he just told himself, we're living here in that place, and those people here just down to us, they have a lot of gold. Why not just march to them and start to take control of the gold they have? So the ruler of Morocco sent his armies to the south in order to seize the West African gold mines. So why did the ruler of Morocco started to march his army down to the south in order to take control of West Africa gold mines? In order to take control of West Africa gold mines. So he did not go there for anything but for the gold. So the invaders, they used gunpowder, and for the people in Songhai, they did not know the gunpowder yet, and they defeated this united forces of Songhai. So by using gunpowder, the Moroccan people were able to take control of the gold mines in West Africa. Continue, Abdullah. Like the Almoravid.
okay, like the Almoravids who conquered Ghana, the Moroccans were not able to rule an empire that reached so far south of the Sahara. With the downfall of Songhai, this part of West Africa splintered into many small kingdoms. Memories, uh, memories of the splendid gold kingdoms of the region survived.
All right. So, of course, after people started to invade Songhai, and once again, Songhai was very, very, very huge empire. Okay, if you can look here, it stretched for many, many, many places nowadays. Mali and Niger nowadays, and even some other countries. And of course, the people from Morocco who came from the north in order to take control. That's nice. So the people from Morocco, they came to take control of the Songhai Empire. And of course, it was a very, very, very large empire that they could not unite all of it and keep it united. Consequently, Songhai was divided into separate places. These places helped in the disunity of the kingdom and never to be united again.
Writing's not that easy, but
And in West Africa, a new power was to arise after the decline of the Empire of Mali. By 1464 AD, a West African king named Sunni Ali rose to power and became the first ruler of the Songhai Empire. The Songhai Empire was located in the region of modern-day Gambia, Senegal, Niger, and northern Nigeria. The size of the Songhai Empire at its height reached 1,400,000 square kilometers, a territory larger than the size of Britain, France, Spain, and Germany. The first leader of the Songhai Empire, Sunni Ali, is known in world history as one of the most effective military strategists to have ever lived. Sunni Ali expanded the territory of the Songhai Empire to the north, east, south, and west, and took control of the key trading cities of Timbuktu and Jenny. Sunni Ali was never defeated in war, and being an effective war strategist, often changed his residence, reorganized his armies, and launched numerous military campaigns across Western Africa. By 1493 AD, a new African king rose to power to continue the expansion of the Songhai Empire, and his name was Askia Muhammad I. Later, he would become known as Askia Muhammad the Great. Now, by this time, Songhai was the largest and wealthiest empire in all of Western Africa, and had adopted Islam as the state religion, and the city of Gao had been established as its capital. Askia Muhammad was a devout Muslim, and in 1496 AD, Askia Muhammad made his pilgrimage to the holy city of Mecca in Arabia. Askia Muhammad took with him over 1,000 soldiers from his army, as well as over 300,000 pieces of gold. Askia Muhammad the Great would again re-establish the city of Timbuktu as the center of learning for Africa and indeed the world. At that time, more than 150 Quranic schools were established, producing scholars, scientists, jurists, and historians. Over 20,000 children of the Songhai were taught at the schools. The Empire of Songhai continued the trend started initially by their predecessor, the Mali Empire, in the 14th century. Songhai again formed Timbuktu into the hub for knowledge, book trading, and scholarship, and this progressed throughout the 15th and 16th century. The Niger River ran through part of the empire and was utilized by the fishermen of Songhai. Salt was developed in the north, in the Tagaza region, while in the southern forests, cola nuts were grown and sold. Gold was mined elsewhere in the empire, and in the city of Jenny, trade was also flourishing. The Songhai Empire also took control of the trans-Saharan trade routes and were able to sell their merchandise to kingdoms in northern Africa and to other international markets in the Mediterranean and Europe. The Empire of Songhai developed a sophisticated system of governance to manage the large territory and resources it controlled. A number of ministries and posts were established, including the Ministry of the Army and the Navy, the Minister of Trade, and the Minister of Industry. The empire was structured into regions and provinces, with each having a governor to rule over it. All of this structure ensured individual provinces did not break away and attempt to form independent kingdoms. The Songhai Empire also produced some notable scholars, including Abd al-Sadi and Mahmud Khanti. Abd al-Sadi was a Songhai scholar born in 1655 AD and is known for producing the great work called Tarikh al-Sudan, which means the history of the Sudan. His work specifically chronicles the history of the Songhai Empire.
So after the Songhai Empire started to fall down, we have small societies and kingdoms of West Africa, because no ruler was able to just unite all of these territories once again under just one control. Consequently, small settlements and small societies started to arise, each one having its own leader. So, in the period from 500 till 1500, other kingdoms and even societies started to flourish in various parts of West Africa. The kingdom of Benin, for example, developed in the rainforests, while the fertile northern lands of modern-day Nigeria were home of the Hausa people. They were both successful farmers and also traders. So simply, we can say that in several parts of Western Africa, we have other small settlements and small people. If you can remember the Bantu people who even started first to inhabit the place and migrate into other parts of Africa. So those people are their ancestors, and of course they started also to flourish. One of them were the Benin, which is a forest kingdom. So south of the savannah, Benin rose in the rainforests of the Genuina coast. The forest people built farming villages and traded pepper and ivory, and later slaves to their neighbors in the savannah region. So if we came to Benin, you as you can see, these are some of the artifacts of the Benin people, and that's nowadays. But long ago, they were centralized here in that area. So Benin, they were a forest kingdom. And of course, the only reason for these people to become a forest kingdom is because of the rainforests. They are in the area of the equator where there are rainforests. Consequently, we call them a forest kingdom. South of the savannah, Benin rose in the rainforests of the Genuina coast. The forest people built farming villages, started to build a farming village, and traded number one pepper, number two ivory, and later started to trade slaves to their neighbors in the savannah region. The rulers of the Benin organized their kingdom in the 1300s, probably building on the achievement of early forest cultures. Their Opa or king, Opa means king for the Benin people, was a political, judicial, and religious leader. Still, much power was even spread among other figures, including the queen mother and a council of hereditary chief. So simply, the Benin people, they started to have their own society, and it was a small society first, very small society. And after having that small society, it started to trade with the people from the north and the savannah region, So the society started to expand. Later, they started to adapt some of the ideas about bureaucracy and about how to govern their own people. So the society started to expand more and more. And they even started to include the Queen Mother and even the Council of Hereditary Chief, meaning that the people who ruled them and how they started to evolve and develop. A 3-mile long wall surrounded the capital Penin city, where a great palace was decorated with elaborate frieze, plaques, and even sculptures. Artisans from Ifai, a neighboring forest society, also taught the people of Penin how to cast bronze and braze. Penin sculptors developed their own unique style for representing the human face and form. Their works depicted warriors, Queen Mother, and Opa himself, Opa the king. Later, these sculptures showed helmeted and bearded Portuguese merchants who began to arrive in the growing number in 1500s. So these are some of the photos of the sculptures for the Penin people. These are some of the sculptures. All of these sculptures just show how the artisan started to show the people of Bantu. And let's see, one from Portuguese, and of course the people from Portuguese, which is nowadays Spain. They even reached that place in order to trade with the slaves, and they were also included in their own art. All of these are the works of the Penin people. I guess you get the idea. That's all their art and how they started to portray the human face in their area. Actually, they were not excellent in portraying, but they had their unique style in portraying the people. The walled city-states of the Hausa. By the 1300s, the Hausa have built a number of independent city-walled cities. Walls were designed to protect the people from invasion. Yes, Abdullah?
I just wanted to ask if I could read.
What?
I just wanted to ask if I could read.
No problem. So, simply, you can just, to just understand the idea, we can say we have here a city state. Do you remember the city states? Those we have already studied about. So
Yes.
at the beginning of civilization, people just lived in city states surrounded with walls in order to protect them from invasion. So the Hausa people, they tended to have the same principle, which is building a huge wall around their city. That wall will just protect them from any outer invasion. You can read Abdullah. Second paragraph. While these cities,
Okay. While these cities remained independent, one another, in time the walled cities expanded into thriving commercial centers. In the cities, cotton weavers and dyers, leather workers, and other artisans produced goods for sale. Merchants traded with Arab and Berber caravans from north of the Sahara. Hausa goods were sold as far away as North Africa and Southern Europe.
So simply, those city states of the Hausa people, they started to expand in agriculture and even in manufacturing some of the goods or the crops they grow. After doing this, now I'll have the surplus of materials for my civilization. After having the surplus, I'll just start trading in this surplus. They started to trade with people from Africa, so that's been in here. Okay, so they started to trade with the people to the north, their neighboring, and the people in the savannah. So they started to trade with the northern Africa and even some parts of Portuguese and southern Europe, because the manufactured goods that the Benin people had, number one, they had surplus of these materials. Number two, other people wanted these surpluses. Consequently, they started to trade together. Kano, on the other hand, Abdurrahman,
Can I read, teacher?
okay, Froyan,
Yes, Abdullah Al Frayan. Yes.
yes.
Kano was the most prosperous Hausa city-state. Its walls over 12 miles in circumference and up to 50 feet high, protected a population of more than 30,000 Kano's greatest king. Muhammad was a Muslim, as were many of the city's markets and officials. During his reign, the Hausa developed a writing system influenced by Arabic script and Islamic law-influenced government.
All right. So, Kano, it was one of the city states of the Hausa people, but it was considered to be the most important city state of the Hausa people because number one, it had a 12-mile in circumference and up to 50 feet high for its own wall. So the wall was very, very magnificent so that it can protect itself from any outer invasion. And even it was protected by population of over than 30,000 people living in that place. And the king himself of the Kano city-state was called Muhammad Rumfa. Muhammad Rumfa, he was a Muslim man, and of course he started to have his city and the merchants and the officials to be appointed so that they can trade with the outer civilization and starting to expand his own influence and territory. And by that, his city-state Kano will flourish eventually. During his reign means the period of the ruling king. Any king who rules for a specific period, we call this period reign. So during his reign, the Hausa developed a writing system. And of course, they were influenced by the Arabic scripts and the Islamic law influenced the government and the laws were put for the people. Because of course, they had trade along with the Muslim civilization. Consequently, they started to become affected by them. Many Hausa rulers were women, so there was no difference between a man and women in ruling. Many Hausa rulers were women, including Amina, of the city-state of Tazawa, located in present-day Nigeria. In the late 1500s, she conquered Kano and other regions, expanding the boundary of Zaria as far as Niger River. Under Amina, the Hausa came to dominate many Saharan trade routes. So, simply we can say that those small kingdoms and city-states helped also a lot in expanding the civilization of the Western African people, and including them we have the Benin, the Kano, and also we have the Hausa people. Any questions so far?
No.
Grammarly can help you.
Few African queens that come to our attention during the medieval period of West Africa, but none of these queens shine as bright as the West African queen of Zaria. Queen Amina was not only the greatest African queen of West Africa, but one of the greatest queens in African history altogether. What up, African Road? It's Home Team here, and I'm back at it with another video of African history, culture, and worldview. And as always, if you want to support the Home Team, you can do so on patreon.com, a website where you can find unique and Home Team merchandise about where she came from, the Hausa state of Zazao. The old walled town of Zaria was the capital of the traditional Zaria Emirate, formerly Zazao or Zegzeg. The historic kingdom is said to date from the 11th century CE, when King Gunguma founded it as one of the original Hausa Bakwai, or 7 true Hausa states. Zaria was probably founded in 1536, and later in the century became the capital of the Hausa state of Zazao. Both the town and state were named after Queen Zaria, the late 16th century queen, the younger sister and successor of Queen Amina. Camel caravans from the northern Sahara came there to trade, and Islam was introduced in about 1456. So who is Queen Amina? Queen Amina was a Hausa Muslim and was known as a skilled military strategist and conqueror. Oral tradition includes many stories about Queen Amina, but scholars generally agree that the stories are based on a real person who ruled in that region. The actual date of her rule is debated, but most agree that she ruled in either the 15th or 16th century. One of the earliest sources that mention Queen Amina outside of oral history is a map made by the Portuguese called the Planisphere of Domingos, which was made in 1573 and names a place in Africa called the Castelo de Mina, or the Castle of Amina. Her father, King Turunku, and her mother, Queen Bakwa, were the 22nd king and queen to rule in Zaria. After her parents died, her brother became king, and Princess Amina served as a leading warrior in her brother's cavalry and gained a lot of attention and notoriety for her military skills. It was after the death of her brother that Queen Amina became sole ruler of Zazao. Amina controlled many of the trade routes in the region and conquered as far as Nupe in the south and Kwarafa. She's believed to have trained her own cavalry, and she built walled forts around each area that she conquered, which she named Ganuwar Amina, meaning Amina's walls. The city of Zaria itself was encompassed by over 10 miles of walls. A well-regarded and detailed history of the city of Kano, composed in the late 19th century, called the Kano Chronicle, says the following about Queen Amina. Every state paid her tribute. The king of Nupe sent her 40 male servants and 10,000 coconuts. In her time, all the products of the West came to Hausaland. Queen Amina is credited with establishing metal armor amongst her army. She was said to wear metal armor herself. Her army also incorporated iron helmets and chainmail, which protected her soldiers well against various African armies who may have been lacking such protection, ensuring their effectiveness. Only 3 months after being crowned queen, Amina waged a 34-year campaign against her neighbors, meant to expand Zazao territory. Her army is said to have consisted of well-trained foot soldiers, numbering around 20,000, and also consisting of 1,000 cavalry troops. Muhammad Bello, the Fulani Sultan of the Sokoto Empire, has this to say about Queen Amina. Strange things have happened in the history of the 7 Hausa states, and most strange of these is the extent of the possessions which God gave to Aminatu, daughter of the ruler of Zazao. She waged war in the Hausa lands and took them all so that the men of Katsina and the men of Kano brought her tribute. She made war in Bachi and against the other towns of the south and of the west, so that her possessions stretched down to the shores of the sea. Even though the Hausa kingdoms developed before the reign of Amina, the Sultan of Sokoto still credits her for establishing statehood amongst the Hausa people. According to the Kuno Chronicle, Queen Amina ruled for 34 years, which allowed her to expand her influence and create trade relations with North Africa. Well, I'm all out, guys. If you like these videos and want to help out in its continued production.
And that's it was for today, grade 9. And if you have any question, please have no hesitation to ask me. Any questions so far about the Kingdom
No.
of West Africa? Okay, grade 9. Have a nice day and see you tomorrow.